I was appointed in 2021 with the task of bringing together single market policy, which for those more familiar with the European Union is something quite important, and that has been in a way the excuse to do industrial policy for a lot of years, and industrial policy per se. And that came just after the COVID crisis. And the COVID crisis was a total wake-up call in the European Union, because all of a sudden, we just saw the single market crumbling down. And we go on and on about the single market being like the basis and the pillar and the foundation of everything we do. And it sounds okay? Yeah. And all of a sudden, we cannot move, and we are so happy to move seamlessly. We cannot get our package from Amazon, and worse, we cannot have maintenance of these big, very high value-added machines we have in our hospitals. And nothing works. Obviously, I'm not talking here about the human toll, about all of this, but we all felt that, and those like me who deal with single market, it was quite amazing, because we just took it for granted as being here. Also, all of a sudden, we discover that we do not have a lot of things we do, very menial things, like the things we need, like medical gloves. You cannot be vaccinated if a nurse doesn't have a glove to use to vaccinate you. We don't have paracetamol. Production has been delocalized since the 80s, 90s of the last century. Production has been delocalized for obviously money, because of money reasons, but also because we introduced quite tough chemical legislation, which is a great thing, that makes the continent cleaner. But that also pushes companies to go and produce certain inputs, very important inputs, elsewhere. And because paracetamol was basically the only drug we had against COVID, that was quite shocking. And all of a sudden, we discovered that our new industrial strategy that was published one day before the lockdown began, and that pushed for green and digital transition, which was all the color of the month and of the year, had to be accelerated, because we were all working from home, and because it was soon quite clear that mortality was higher in all these regions, including the ones where my family lives in Italy, where pollution was higher. And so what did we do? An update of the industrial strategy, which was already called new, but I didn't put new because I feel a bit ashamed that after 3 months we discovered we had to do something updated on the new. New what? Industrial strategy, you bring 27 member states in one room and you ask what is industrial strategy. A lot of them put on a face because they don't like it, and in any case we get 27 different answers. And that's why how you call it industrial innovation policy is important, because it is linked to what we want as a future in manufacturing in Europe. And the COVID crisis showed it, how important it is to know what we want, what is the objective of having manufacturing, of having better manufacturing, of having green and digital manufacturing aimed at the needs of the population. So at the time, that is 2021, we designed this little graph that I'm putting there, because it's quite interesting, and it just showed what had happened over time in a number of factors. We are really good in innovation in Europe, and we came with a lot of beautiful ideas, financed by a great framework program. By the way, welcome back, UK. Welcome back. So we're very happy, all of us in the community. And we come with wonderful innovations, and then have a bit of difficulty of keeping them in the continent. which is kind of normal. Competitiveness, you produce where it makes sense to produce. But does it make sense when you have some ambitions, for example, in green? So that's why already before the crisis in batteries and hydrogen, we had developed what we call alliances in order to increase manufacturing. But the situation was pretty red, as you can see, for semiconductors and outcome of the CHIPS Act, for solar and for cloud, which is key for digital. And we thought we had the recipes to deal with this situation, and the alliances and the rules and the standards and some funding. And this, don't go and read the lines, but it shows at the time how we did industrial innovation policy in one industrial ecosystem, in this case mobility, transport and automotive. So you do rules, and we have plenty of these. And we love to do rules, we're good at it, I hope so, and we have legal basis to do a lot of rules. By the way, Euro 7 is being finalized as we talk. Then, obviously, with time, we develop policies on inputs, on raw materials, on critical components. We developed fundings, complicated ones, that start from research and innovation, Horizon Europe, and go on and on till placing in the market. And that's the whole idea of giving an environment that conduces manufacturing to grow and to go towards social and economic objectives we want, in particular for this one, linked to green. But then, a couple of years I was talking about, and that was since I was appointed to bring together single market and industrial policy, we don't talk anymore about the COVID-19 recovery because it was fast, it was good. The single market that had collapsed very fast proved to be a great asset. Because Mike Gregory talked about it, about this capacity of doing great things in manufacturing, the vaccine production, people talk about it as a scientific miracle, but for me, it's most of all an industrial miracle. To be able, and you talked about scaling up, to scale up on something that did not exist, because in particular mRNA vaccines did not exist. Scaling up on an innovation that was not even authorized to the level of being able to vaccinate the whole continent plus UK and the rest of the world in 1 year, this is a miracle. It could happen because of the single market, it could happen because of the drive of the people at the time. It could also happen because a lot of people, and not only scientists, I would say process engineers, etc., and even politicians were doing a lot of innovation. Sometimes frugal innovation, like phone calls, because the global supply chains were not working. And it is interesting to see, and I talked about dependencies, that a very complex but rather secure supply chain, the one of vaccine production. And the vaccines we used in Europe were vaccines where the supply chain was mainly, not only, but mainly transatlantic, between here and the United States. So not the usual issues with Asia, etc. I'm talking about production, not vaccinating, because the gloves, Southeast Asia. And still, all the strategies of the companies, which made sense, we are producing between Europe and the States, just collapsed because the United States closed, waived the Defense Production Act, and just closed. And then innovation was trying to do things, calling, the phone call was the main tool we had at political level just to try to make the supply chain work. Rules, obviously, money, a lot of state aid, contracts. So we did a lot of innovation really in policy to get the supply chain working. It was precious, first because it showed us we can do it, but also because we draw a lot of lessons. So recovery came, everybody was vaccinated or more or less, recovery came, and we had the first big energy crisis, so we forget about that, but recovery was chaotic, and already we had big issues with energy that then were obviously aggravated with Ukraine. I don't know why the E fell down, but that's the explosion. And more recently, for my field of expertise, obviously the Inflation Reduction Act, that means was a big wake-up call. Companies went all la la la, we will all delocalize. I tend to be skeptical about that we all delocalize. We don't even us, take our baggage and go. We have the first assessment. It was not so big an impact, but it's very easy. Inflation reduction, actually produce something, you get the money. I saw you the slide on the automotive, which is totally not digestible. That's how we do policy. They do it different, they go big, lot of money, they go easy. That's also innovation, but we have some difficulty. And then the whole thing of China, what we call de-risking and not decoupling, is not an easy one, and we have already a lot of threats and actual facts of raw materials not being exported to the European Union anymore. So there, and my slides can be given out, so you will have a series of slides on how we reacted to this series of events and crises. Chips were a big issue during the chaotic recovery from COVID-19, and we took just the same American name. The European Chips Act was issued, and these are the words of the Director General of our legal service. This is one big example of an acquis, a legal acquis in industrial policy. We didn't really have legal acquis, so we had a lot of rules which were single market rules. Why? Because in the CHIPS Act you have rules, but you have also money. And it comes together. And it's not that we put rules and then we help you out through Horizon, or we help you out through the bank, or there is authorized state aid. Here you have all together. And this, for us, it's new. It's totally innovative. It's a way of pushing some kind of production of what we want to have in Europe. And then we are already seeing there is a lot of commitments of investment, and we are already seeing all the difficulties of putting that into place, which are the difficulties you can see in other areas of the world, like finding the people to do that. And we will get to skills. We had also, as a response to the IRA, and the dates don't come, but that's February 2023, the Green Deal Industrial Plan. So the idea was to put together all that we had done with following the crisis with REPowerEU and the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which are rules and money again, with a clear focus on industrial policy. That was then followed in March this year by the Net Zero Industry Act, which has the peculiarity, no money, because the money is supposed to come from the other instruments, of the peculiarity of choosing technologies, which is something that historically we do not do in the European Union. There is this principle of neutrality in technology. So you just put a lot of tools, a lot of money in innovation, and then bottom-up things get discovered and put to the market or not. So we go more for objectives. In the case of the Net Zero Industry Act, there is a choice. And this is a very political choice. You read it and it seems obvious, but for example, you won't see nuclear, and perhaps you followed all the debate on nuclear. Is nuclear a clean or not technology? We all have our opinions, so I'm not doing a raise of hands, but this is really a political discussion about member states. And this is a political choice, and there will be a fast-track access to permitting, fast permitting to possibly, and we'll get to that, fast financing, etc., that will push certain technologies. We, on the same day, still March 2023, was also proposed a critical, I say proposed, because it's 5 minutes, it's being, it's just great, I'm hiring you. The Critical Raw Materials Act, because this is all very well, but you need the inputs. And their dependencies are huge for raw materials, so you see there are some objectives here, we don't choose technologies, but there is a list of raw materials, strategic raw materials, on objectives on extraction, processing, recycling, and use of external sources, because you can't have, and you will never have everything on the continent, but diversification is key. So European capacities have to be built, resilience of the supply chain obviously has to be reinforced, but still looking at the green aspects, because raw materials extraction and processing is a big social and political issue for us. Then still on the same day, we adopted also a communication on long-term competitiveness, and when you see this picture, you see that it has a lot to do with industry and manufacturing, a lot. It puts at the center the single market, and so it really goes beyond the usual view of competitiveness. That is what led to an allocation of resources that was very problematic in the last years, and the idea is to promote sustainable competitiveness from a point of view of social, green, but also of resilience. So the competitiveness that allow us to be what we want and to produce what we need. More recently, because we keep writing and having ideas in these frenetic times, a communication was issued on economic security, which in a way is a follow-up to the strategic autonomy idea. Strategic autonomy has been in a conference like this, we discussed also where it came from, and it comes from defense. Economic security just goes beyond and really gives this idea of having the economy we need and we want towards security. And as you see, this is taken from the press material, the first talk, on the first P, because it's the 3 Ps, talks immediately about industry, industrial capacities. This is something which is quite new for us, and to put industry first when talking about security issues. Last slide, we're still digesting that. Our President, Ursula von der Leyen, made a speech on the State of the European Union earlier this month, and she talked a lot about industry. She talked a lot about innovation, and that's not something that happens quite often. I think 1/3 of her speech, and I put there some words she put, and I tried to color code them just to show how industrial innovation policy now is something that touches all our toolbox. So the yellow one is the trade toolbox. So she promised an anti-subsidy investigation in electric vehicles coming from China. She talked quite a lot about free trade agreements, and again, obviously, the de-risking policy toward China. There are the, let's say, more traditional, obvious thing like promoting business, environment, clean transition, and access to key technologies, which is our bread, was our bread and butter. But she linked it also quite a lot to having 1 minute, a financial instrument that goes from innovation to market, which is the STEP, strategic technologies. I'll look about it. I don't have time anyway to remember, but I will. And she spoke a lot about skills. Skills is a big issue for the green transition. But she also spoke about industrial relations. So shall I put it as social dialogue, but industrial relations are key if we want to have an industrial innovation policy that really talks about what we want and for whom. Thank you very much.